Hey guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, this channel is all about sewing and fashion. Make sure to hit on the subscribe button and turn on post notification. This tutorial is on this MILKMAID underbust corset with Queen Anne neckline. I made this underbust corset with no darts. This is more like an experiment for me to show you guys if an underbust corset has a chance to look good with no darts. And you can see the result I have here. Also, let me know in the comment section what you think about that. At the end of the tutorial, I'll be telling you guys what I think after making this without darts. Keep on watching and let's get started. These are the materials I'll be using for this tutorial. Here with me, I have 2 yards of Ankara print. We'll be creating just the upper part of this dress. For the lower part, which is a wrap skirt, I already have a tutorial on my channel. I'll be putting the link in my description box so you can go ahead and watch that. Then I have this beautiful lace here. This is about 2 yards and this is a soft lace. Then I have my rule, I have my pins. I always work with my pins. I have my marker, my measuring tape, my scissor, and I have my pattern paper. I've already gone ahead to draw out my lines. I have the shoulder line, the bust point, the underbust, the waistline, and then the rest of the paper is going to be for the back waist effect. I'll just be labeling this with my marker. This is the shoulder line, the bust point, underbust, waistline, and then the length. I'll be using this pattern paper to draft out both the front and the back. For the neckline, mark 3 inches on this shoulder line here. This is a standard measurement, and then from that point I'm going to come down by 1.5 inch. This is actually for the back neckline. I'll connect this with a curve. Now I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement by 2. I have 8.5. I'm going to mark that on the shoulder line. From that point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch to get my shoulder slope. Now this 1 inch I came down by, I'll connect it into the neckline just like this. The next measurement we'll be marking is going to be the chest line. If you already follow me on here, you know that the chest line formula is my bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. After doing that, I have 8.25. So I'm just going to mark that there. And I'm going to connect this with a straight line. I'll also be marking half of my shoulder measurement on my chest line. So I'll be able to get a straight line to my shoulder slope. I'm going to divide what I have here from this shoulder slope to the chest line by 2. I'm going to mark that there. Then I'll come in from that point by half of an inch. On the chest line, I'm going to divide my bust measurement by 4. I have 10, so I'm just going to mark that there. Now I'm going to connect what I have there on the chest line on this point and then back into the shoulder slope with a curve. To place my round body measurement, I already marked quarter of my bust measurement on the chest line. I'll also be marking quarter of my bust measurement on the bust point, which is 10 inches. I'll just mark that there. On the waistline, I'll also divide my waist by 4 and mark it there. Remember that I won't be adding any darts for this, so I'm just going to mark 8 inches there. Then I'll go ahead to connect all these points together to get my basic bodice. For the back waist effect, what I have left here is about 5.5 inch, so I'll just be using that. What I'll do is to connect a line from my waistline into this point here, just like this. I'll be marking my new neckline for the front piece, and to do that, I'm going to come up from the chest line by 1.5 inch. I'll mark that on both sides. You can use what's comfortable for you, and I'm going to connect this with a straight line, and I'll be labeling this neckline. At this point, before we draft out the milkmade bustier, I'm going to go ahead and cut out this pattern paper, so I'll be able to cut out my back piece, then we can proceed to draft out the milkmade bustier for the front piece. For the back piece, I've gone ahead to cut out my main fabric and I've also cut out the lining, 2 pieces for each. For the main fabric, make sure that the fabric is right sides facing each other. And I already marked out my zipper allowance here, which is 1.5 inch. Now I'm going to bring in my pattern paper and I'm going to place it on it and pin it down. For the back piece, we'll be stopping at the waistline. We won't be needing this back area, so I'm going to extend the waistline into the zipper allowance like this. And then I'll be adding 1 inch stitching allowance to the side of my pattern paper. And I'm going to connect this together just like this. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, starting from the neckline. I'll be adding half-inch stitching allowance, half-inch stitching allowance to the shoulder. I won't be adding any stitching allowance to the armhole. And then I already added 1 inch to the side, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it along that line. I'm going to remove my pattern paper now. And coming in from this zipper allowance on the waistline, I'm going to mark ½ inch. This is to reduce any form of zipper bulge. And I'm going to connect this straight into the upper part like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, adding 0.5 inch to the down part. And then I'll cut it along this line like this. Note that you can go ahead and add your dart, because I noticed that for the back side, because of the zipper, you might need to add that. So please go ahead and add that to the back piece, especially if you are using an Ankara fabric. It will help to give you shaping at the back because of the zipper. And yeah, we are done cutting the back piece. Let's go ahead and finish up with the front pattern. For the front pattern, the first thing I'm going to do is to come in from the side of the neckline by 1 inch. That is this point here. I'm going to mark 1 inch there, and I'm going to connect this back into the neckline just like this. After doing that, to create the cup, I'm going to come in from the neckline here by ½ inch. I'll mark that there, and to connect it back into the underbust, I'll come in from the center front by half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inch, and I'm just going to mark that there. Now using my curve, I'm going to connect these 2 points together just like this. After doing that, I'm going to connect what I have remaining there back into that 1 inch there. Now we'll form our cup, and we've gotten our queen Anne neckline effect. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, starting with the yoke. And then I'll cut out the cup. Now the front pattern is in 3 parts. I have my underbust corset, I have my cup here, which we are going to slash and spread, and I have my yoke. To slash and spread this, I'm going to be marking 1.5 inch distance just like this. And I'm going to rule a straight line to the down part of the cup. Then I'll label this 1 to 5. I'll go ahead and cut through each of these lines which I just marked. Now I'll be spreading this on a new pattern paper, so I'm going to bring in a pattern paper that is big enough. I'm bringing in the number 1. I'm just going to place it there, and I'll be giving about 1.5 inch space before I bring in my number 2. So after marking that, I'll bring in my number 2 and place it at the 1.5 inch mark and also pin it down. Note that if you have a smaller bust, you can go ahead and use 1 inch, or if you want it fuller, you can use more depending on what you want. Now I'm going to continue doing this until I get to number 5. After doing that, using my marker, I'm just going to outline it to trace out the ends just like you see me doing here. And then I'll go ahead and trim this out just like this. I'll remove my pins, and this is going to be my new cup. I'm just marking the part that is the side and the part that is the center so I don't mix this up. I'll go ahead and cut this out on my fabric. I've already gone ahead to put my fabric on fold to cut this out. I also have my lining here. Now I'm going to bring in my front piece and pin this down. And then I'm going to be adding 1 inch stitching allowance to the side, and I'm going to connect this together. To the back waist, I decided to add 1.5 extra inch, and I'm going to connect this back into the waistline. Now I'm going to cut it from this upper part, adding ½ inch through this point, adding ½ inch to the cup area, ½ inch here, and then I won't be adding any to the armhole. To this part here, I already added 1 inch, so I'll go ahead and cut it through. I'll be adding ½ inch also to the back waist effect. I already cut out the cup and the yoke of the camera. For the cup, I already have 2 pieces here of lining and of fabric. To this upper part, I added 1 inch to use and create the channel for my ropes, and to the other side, ½ inch stitching allowance. To the yoke, I cut 2 pieces of main fabric and 2 pieces of lace, and then I made sure to add half-inch stitching allowance all the way around. To stitch this down for the back piece, I'm just going to separate them like this, and I'll be using one to illustrate. I'm going to place this right sides facing each other, the lining and the fabric, and then I'll be pinning down the parts that I'll be making a stitch. By a few inches, I'll make a stitch on this zipper part, on the neck area and on the side. Then for the front piece, I've already gone ahead to iron hairstay on my lining, and as you can see here, I've already ironed out my lining to get the midpoint here, and then you can see that the lines are very visible. I'll be using them for my boning. From this center line that I have here, I'm going to come out on both sides by 2.5 inch. And then I'm going to connect this back into the center of my cup just like this. To add another line to that, I'm going to come out from this top here by 2.5 inch, under here by 2.5 inch, and I'm going to connect this with a straight line. Now I have the lines to insert my boning. What I'm going to do now is to bring my boning. I've already ironed this. And iron this boning to make it straight just like I've done here. Now make sure that your boning is 1 inch away from the top and 1 inch away from the down part. Now I'm going to place this on all my lines as you can see here, and I'm going to my machine and show you guys how I'm going to stitch this down. Now placing my boning there, I'm going to make sure it's about 0.75 inch to 1 inch away from the top, and I'm going to make a stitch on the side like this. This is a Regina boning, so you can stitch on it. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. After making that stitch, you can see what this looks like. I'll go ahead and repeat the same thing to all these lines I have here. I'm done doing that, and you can see how this came out. Now I'm going to place this lining with my fabric right sides facing each other, and I'm going to pin down the sides that I'll be making a stitch. I'm going to make a stitch on this upper part, and I'll be making a stitch by the sides. For the cup, I'm going to pick one fabric and one lining. I'll be using this to illustrate. I'll be placing the fabric on the lining like this. Make sure the right side of the fabric is what is facing you. Now I'm going to go ahead and pin this down just so it stays in place. What I'll be doing here is to create a channel on top of this place. I'll just fold it in by a few inches and fold it again by about 0.75 to 1 inch. I'm going to pin this down just like this. What I'll be doing now is to make a stitch close to the edge of this place just to secure this in place, and I'll be doing the same thing to the other cup. For the yoke, what I'm going to do is to place my lace to my fabric, and make sure you place the right side of the lace to the wrong side of the fabric. This is because when you are done stitching it down and you turn it over, it is going to bring the right side of the fabric facing the lace. I don't know if you understand, but just do it that way and you will see what I'm talking about. And I'll be making a stitch only to this part that I pinned down. Now you can see what the back piece looked like after I was done stitching it down. I already went ahead to turn it over to the right side, and I've given this a good press. I'll just keep that aside. For the front underbust corset part, you can see what I have. I've already gone ahead to turn this to the right side, and I've given it a good press. For the yoke, you can see how that came out. It's the right side that is facing the lace like this. This is what you want to achieve. And also for the cup, I've already stitched down the channel, and this is what I have. What I'll be doing now is to go ahead and cut the rope that I'll be passing through these channels. For the rope, I've already gone ahead to cut this out, and for the width, I have about 17 inches as you can see. For the length, I'm just going to open this up. I'm measuring that I have about 3 inches. Now this is how I folded it. I just folded this part like this, and I folded this other side to meet at the middle, and I ended up folding this into two this way. What I'll be doing now is to make a stitch on this down part to secure this together. After making that stitch, you can see how beautiful this came out. Now I'll be inserting these ropes through the channel that I created, but before I do that, I'll be measuring what I have in between my cup here. And as you can see there, I have 6 inches. So I'll be using my safety pin and I'll be inserting my rope through the cup just like this. After doing that, when I get to the end, I'm going to use my pin to secure it, and I'll be making a stitch at this end just so I secure the rope in the channel and it doesn't move out. Now to this other side, I'm just going to measure it and make sure that I have 6 inches here as I measured on the bodice. And then I'm just going to stop there. I'll be doing the same thing to the other cup. As you can see here, I've made a stitch at this side here. Now to connect this to the main bodice, what I'm going to do first is to come down by ½ inch from this part. We'll start placing our cup from this ½ inch below, and then I'm going to notch the midpoint of this cup. After notching the midpoint, I'm going to place it right side to the bodice just at this ½ inch here, and I'm going to pin it down along this side. Now I'm going to mark the midpoint of this place here, and then I'm going to turn this to the wrong side and continue pinning this down. Before I continue, make sure that this center part here, you don't put it directly on this channel. Okay, so just put it below the channel and then just continue pinning it along this side. Now whatever I have left here, since I've already notched the midpoint of my cup and the midpoint on the bodice also, I'll be gathering what I have left here to the down part of the bodice. After I was done doing that, you can see how beautiful this came out. And as you can see here, I can tighten my rope, I can make it loose however I please. That's why I said you shouldn't place the center part directly on the channel, so you will be able to do this. Now the next thing I'll be doing is to attach the yoke, and to do that I'm just going to place this right side to the fabric like this. I'm going to open it up and I'll be using the fabric to cover it up just like this. I'll pin it down and I'll be stitching this down. Now I'll be doing the same thing to the other side. Before I join the back and the front together at the shoulder, what I'm going to do first is to close up my zipper allowance. I already have them right sides facing each other here. I'm just going to mark 1.5 inch, which is the zipper allowance I used up here, and I'm also going to mark it down here, and I'm going to connect this with a straight line. I'll be stitching this down together using a loose stitch. After doing that, I've gone ahead to iron this out, and you can see how beautiful it looks. Now I'm going to place it right sides with the front and just like this, and to stitch it down at the shoulder, if you've seen some of my videos, you already know how to do this. You're just going to place them together like this, and you're going to use one to cover everything up just like you see me doing here. Now I'm going to go ahead and pin this down. And after pinning it down, I'll turn it so you see what it's supposed to look like. This is the neat finish you're going to get if you do it this way. So I'm going to make sure to do this on both sides of my shoulders. After doing that, I'll open this up. This is how beautiful it looks. I'm going to go ahead and trim out the excess I have here. Now to insert the sleeve, I already went ahead to cut out my sleeve. I have a full tutorial on my channel on how to go about drafting of a basic sleeve. So I'll be putting the link in my description box so you can go ahead and check that out. Now I've already notched the midpoint of my sleeve. I'm just going to place it right sides to the joining point at the shoulder here, and I'm going to pin this down. I'll also pin it down all the way around. Now I'll go to my machine and stitch this down using ½ inch stitching allowance, and I'm going to make sure to do the same thing to the other side. After stitching it down, you can see how beautiful this looks. I've already gone ahead to pin down the sides of my fabric together, and I'm going to be taking out my body measurement. I'll be dividing my body measurement by 2. I've already taken out my body measurement, and my bust is 40 divided by 2. I have 20. As you can see here, I have 20, and whatever is left, I'm going to use it as the stitching allowance at the side. Also at my waist divided by 2, I have 16. After stitching it down, you can see how beautiful this came out. I'm going to connect this to the down part to make a dress. Now to make this a dress, I'm going to take the measurement of what I have from the waist down to the back's waist, and what I have here is about 7.5 inch. I'll be adding ½ inch to that, which is going to be my stitching allowance. Now coming to the skirt part, I'm going to get the midpoint just like this. and then I'm going to measure from the midpoint down by 8 inches. I'm bringing in the upper part. I'm just going to trace out my line just like this. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. After cutting it out, I'll make a little notch at the midpoint here and also on the upper part just like this. I'll place them right sides facing each other, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin this down just like you see me doing here. Now first of all, I'm going to make sure to stitch this down using half inch stitching allowance to this side, and then I'll do it also to the other side. After doing that, you can see how beautiful this came out. The next thing I'll be doing is to do the back also. I'll turn this to the back side, and then I'm also going to stitch down the back to the down part of the bodice. I'll pin this down using about half inch, and I'll go to my machine and stitch this down also. Now after stitching that, this is what we have. As you can see, the sides are open, and this is because I opened some allowances, so I'll be able to stitch this down. I'll also go ahead and close that up, and then I'll insert my zipper using my zipper allowance. After making this without that, this is my honest review. If you are looking to go for comfort but still fit, especially with an Ankara fabric, this is perfect. It is very comfortable. It doesn't feel too tight at the waist area, so yes, I highly recommend. However, at the back you might be needing that, especially if it is an Ankara fabric. I noticed that the zipper had a little bulge, even though it isn't bad, but adding that will eliminate that. And yeah, that's just about it. Do let me know in the comment section if you'll be trying this out, and thank you for sticking with me to the end of this tutorial. I'll see you guys in my next one.